All right. So, in the words of Matthew McConaughey, the only word he knows. All right, all right. So, why do I got this pile of dumpster shims? Nobody's even watching. This is great. I'm talking to myself. That's okay. I normally do that anyway. I drove a truck for a while. I got really good at talking to myself. So, the plan is to make this trommel do trommel things. You're on a laptop, so quality is going to be whatever it is. So what I'm trying to do is figure out the angles to best get the worm poo through the machine without it getting like hung up too much. So I think before I had this janky setup here is not screwed to anything. It's literally held together with hooks and grips. So what I'm wanting to do is figure out what angle it needs to be at to where it flows through, but doesn't spend too much time turning into giant, massive clumps. Like it will literally turn into clumps like that, instead of like beautiful, luxurious castings such as that. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little noisy when she runs. So, yes, Aaron, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. Right there, Aaron, you're a lifelong supporter. Yeah, we got some live action going on. So the first flaw that I noticed with the trommel was the way I got this set up with the wood. It's too hard to shovel stuff in. So what I'm going to do is get me some dumpster 3/8 inch threaded rod and run that through like as far back as I can, so that way I can get a shovel in there. Because currently the way I got to do it is shovel it down past there, which is challenging. Let me know if the audio is good, because I don't know what I'm doing. So what I've been using is this modified, I think it used to be like a plastic booze bottle, but I cut it down so it would fit inside. But, it's like use it sparingly. I don't got a whole lot left. All right, put your earmuffs on. I think we're getting here. I think this angle is actually pretty decent. I think it could maybe go up a little bit more. Hence the shims. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback. But yeah, I'm going to shim it up just a little bit more. Once I figure out this thick, I think it'll work a lot better. Oh yeah. Structural integrity is not really a thing going on here right now. Let's see what that does. It's a little warm out here today. Gotta take my Canadian tuxedo off, my Midwest tuxedo off. I don't know why people don't wear overalls. These are like the freaking most comfortable, useful freaking things to ever wear. It's like you're wearing pajamas all day. This is it on the trouble. I think we're getting pretty close, pretty close. Okay, we'll go with the block. The higher this goes, the sketchier it gets. Here, like sketchy level 5 on this thing. I tell you what, I think we got us a winner here. I did have to modify it and put some boards behind it just to keep it from flying out, but it's actually working surprisingly well. Yeah, I think once I get rid of this wood and just put some all thread or whatever in here, I think we're onto something here. Oh, let me take some questions now from my singular viewer, Aaron, lifelong supporter. It's weird getting used to it, but like, hang on, I gotta fix this thing. It has got to be driving you all nuts because it's driving me nuts. This is where I fall and break part of me. Okay, yeah, we go down. Get the mood right. It's weird. Not weird, but weird. Like I said, in the beginning, I drove a truck for off and on for like 6 months here and there. And I spent a lot of time in the truck just talking to myself, solving all the world's problems. But this is pretty much the same thing. I just talk to myself. But it doesn't feel as crazy because I'm talking to myself, but other people may hear me. So with that being said, you got to really like think about what you're going to say before you say it too. There's that. But I am actually impressed with the way the trommel's honestly working, considering that motor, I want to say it was underwater at one point. It was out in a shed behind my dad's house, and I believe it was underwater at one point in time. Oh, awesome. Yeah, dude, freaking worms, man. I started my first like worm farm back in like 2010, 2011. I got my first house at Virginia Beach and that. I had crap soil. It was like this silty clay. And the first year, nothing grew. And then I got worms. And I did the worm casting thing from all through winter in the house, And then that spring, when I planted my tomatoes and that, they were, I'm not even kidding when I say twice the size they were the year before. And I didn't use a lot of castings at that point. But I have found that like adding like 10 to 20% castings to your soil makes a huge difference. There's studies on it. And yeah, so like generally what I do is like when I start my tomato plants, which probably start another maybe month inside, when I up pot them from the seedling trays, I will put that's when I start adding the worm castings. I do 20% in the next bigger container, and then 20% in the next bigger container, like the half gallon or whatever. Oh yeah, that's the other reason I wanted to get into worms, because I mean, all the states around me, I'm in South Carolina, and all the states around me are legalizing cannabis, and a lot of the growers that don't use hydroponics use worm castings. Like that is their go-to. But the one thing is about if you're going to sell to like the cannabis market, which I'm not really looking into selling worm castings, I'm more into selling worms, I think. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. I need to get my garden up and running first. But you have to get the soil samples, soil testing done. And it's quite expensive. I want to say it's like $200 And you need to have consistency in your product. So, like mine currently is kitchen scraps in the outdoor bin. I don't use that in the house because it brings too many fruit flies and things. But inside the house, I use my homemade worm grub, which is basically cheap bird seed ground up with alfalfa ground up. Um, Nothing too crazy. Oh. Got a text message. I'm important now. But yeah, no, you really got to have like a consistent product, and maybe down the road that's something I look into. Um, Currently, I don't have enough direction to figure out what I want to do yet. Let's see. Oh, I think we're gonna go on a walk because this guy needs a cigarette, and I am gonna be honest. This whole it's weird doing a live stream. I'm not used to it. Another good thing for gardening too is the microbes are a big part, but also the fungi. Something I did this year because like my soil was dead; it was just dead clay. I live in a new housing development, and they just basically bulldozed everything to a giant pile behind the house, and it's trash. Um, Collecting uh, fungus, especially like local forests and that, like right there in the top layer, like right below the leaves, the top layer where you get those like top roots of certain things. There's that white fungus that grows on there. Collecting samples of that, and then what I did was I put it in some water with some sugar and that in it, and I let it sit for a few days, and then I strained it out off and I sprayed it on my garden, and then it got those funguses, those spores, to start growing in my garden. I noticed that this year when I redid a section of my garden, the garlic I had to take up, unfortunately, before it was done and move it. Fortunately, the transplant worked, but um, I noticed that when I was digging all that up, where I had some beans and stuff planted, the roots from those beans had the fungus, the nodules on it, and the fungus was actually growing through there. So I think fungi is a huge component to having a good, healthy ecosystem. Somebody pop ups. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to sell anything that I don't know for sure works. So I want to test everything in my own garden first because God forbid, like I had an issue years ago where I bought some, I didn't buy, I got, it was free, but I got horse manure. And it turns out that horse manure, the horses had been eating grass. And I didn't know about this fertilizer. My cigarettes inside. I'm going to apologize. Bear with me for 1 second. For a second. I got to run inside real quick.